So, can I really write a story, create an artwork, and finish it in just 1 hour's time? Yes, and in the next 12 minutes, you'll see me do it from start to finish as I share my 4-part art process that helps me jump straight into the creative zone. Part 1, Finding My Art Story. Every picture tells a story, and behind every great piece of art, there's a story. It might be a story about love and unity, something we need now more than ever. A story about spirituality. Or it might even be a story pulled from somewhere beyond. Lately, I've been experimenting with word prompts to help me visualize stories for my artwork. Here I have created 4 envelopes. Inside each envelope are several prompts from their category. I'll show you how this works. Finding my art story is a 6-minute part of my art process, which I will time-lapse for you. In part 2, I will give you a summary of my story. I use my word prompts with a timed writing technique, but not to worry. If writing isn't your thing, you could use either dictation or just sit with the prompts and meditate on them and see where your imagination takes you. Without looking, I have randomly chosen prompts from each envelope, so it's always a surprise which combination I'll get. First are my 2 color prompts. These will become the foundation of my limited color palette. Next is the person's name. Sometimes a great way to discover a new story in your art is to see it through someone else's lens. To push myself creatively, I chose names that I have no personal connection with, like Wanda. Our brains naturally attach images and emotions to certain names, even fictional ones, so it's a great way to spark ideas. I approach the place prompt the same way because environment has a powerful effect on imagination. I don't necessarily need to paint that exact location, but I'll let its atmosphere guide the story. And to challenge myself even more, I'll try to choose odd and interesting places, such as sand dunes. Part 2. Make collage papers. Note, I am using a jelly plate to create my collage papers, but if you don't have one, you can also create collage papers using a roller, a large brush, or a sponge. I should mention that I use a soft body acrylic paint to create my collage papers, but if you have a heavier body paint, you can thin it with water or a liquid acrylic medium. Here I've mixed my color palette. I'm starting with emerald green and yellow ochre, and then I've mixed those 2 together to create my mother color, which is this green here in the bottom right. To harmonize the palette, I add just a little bit of that mother color back into the other paints, into the emerald green, into the ochre, and even a little into the white. It helps tie all the colors together so everything feels cohesive. Today I'm using 3 types of paper to create my collage papers. The first is standard printer paper, much of it recycled, which I use quite often. The second is tissue wrapping paper, and the third is pages from an old dictionary that was headed for the dump. But use what you have. Rice paper is nice, or recycled books, especially those with thin pages. Last time I gave myself 18 minutes to make collage papers, and I ended up with way too many. I usually start with lighter colors and let the story guide the theme. Today I'm making sand-colored papers for my sand dune prompt, adding a few swirly lines inspired by the wind-blown dunes. In my story, my character Wanda wins a trip to the Sahara Desert. Now, Wanda is not the adventurous type, but a person obsessed with clipping coupons and entering contests. But one of those contests, run by an offbeat travel company, actually pays off. She wins first prize, a trip to the Sahara Desert and a 1-week stay at the nomad oasis resort. So now I'm curious to see what kind of art this story will inspire. So here's the final collection of collage papers, 10 pieces finished in about 10 minutes, which works out to roughly a minute per page. That's definitely more than I'll need for a 12 by 12 inch canvas. Part 3, Collage Composition, Cut and Paste. For the collage backing, I use a heavyweight mixed media paper taped on the back and gessoed on the front. I attach the paper to a hardboard surface so I have a sturdy base to work on. After the artwork is finished, I press the paper, then glue it to a cradled canvas. Here I have a collection of tools to cut and measure my collage pieces. Now for the composition part, trying to figure out what goes where. I've decided to do an indoor-outdoor piece, or the desert oasis view from Wanda's room. So I'm creating some sand dunes and interior decor. I'm planning to use this white rectangle as another decorative element, a painting within a painting. Now let's add some palm trees. This squiggly lined paper I made is perfect for the palm tree trunks. I forgot to mention earlier that I used simple cake decorating tools to create all these squiggly lined papers. I also forgot to mention that I added black to my color palette, along with the white, so I could get some varying values in the artwork. And finally, I thought I'd add a little decorative vase. Oops, this one's a little too big. So I'm going to trim it down. There we go, that's better. Since I got interrupted during this process and forgot to stop the clock, I'm adding 4 extra minutes to my time. That means I now have 28 minutes and 5 seconds to finish this artwork. Before I begin, I'm going to show you, this is the glue that I use, the Liquitex acrylic medium matte gel to glue my collage down. I put it in a separate container, and I use a spray bottle to wet my papers and a large brush. So here I go. I'm starting at 28 minutes and 45 seconds. I'll start the gluing now. I use a spray bottle to lightly dampen the backs of the heavier papers, such as the printer paper, but I don't need to do that with the lightweight papers. Then I generously apply a layer of matte gel onto the mixed media paper before gluing everything down. Okay, so I'm gluing down my sand dunes, and let's see where we go from. Oh, and my draperies. I'm doing something a little different. It's going to add some extra texture. I'm folding them from behind, and be a little bit thick. They'll be a little three-dimensional that way. Well, still pretty flat, but a little bit three-dimensional. Okay, so these are going to need a lot of glue. Now for the palm trees. I normally would just fiddle around, but I have to do this very quickly. Yeah, here goes the vase. Yeah. I'm going so much faster than normal. This really gets me out of my head into another zone. Okay, there goes the picture and the palm tree leaves. Fronds, I mean. Yeah, it's kind of, yeah, very loose, very not fiddly at all. Not something I would normally do, but yeah, there we go. I think it's about there. That this part of it next time onto the painting, which will tie it all together, I hope. All right, there goes my time. So here it is with everything glued. Part 4, Draw and Paint. Okay, I have 17 minutes and 23 seconds to finish this artwork. So here we are at the 1 hour mark with the final piece, Nomad Oasis Resort. I might come back to it later and work on it some more after it sits for a while, but for now I kind of like the simple Zen feel. This 1 hour art process can stand as a finished piece, or it can work as something that sparks ideas for developing the artwork further. And as for Wanda, I think she really enjoyed her stay. In fact, it made such an impression that she's already thinking about making a return trip next year.